And he sold them the idea that instead of renting in a house, and historically the values of houses have gone up, and he said, you guys in these local communities who haven't been able to afford a house before, I'm going to show you a way. I'm going to give you a way, because I'm sure I'll get your vote, that you can own a house, because I want your vote. So what we're going to do is I'm going to let you buy a house, Mr. Bannon, when you really, you're right on the border, maybe, or not even on the border. Your credit is not good. Okay, let's be honest. And it's not my fault, it's not Bill Clinton's fault, but if whatever happens, at the moment your credit score or whatever it is, your credit's not good. Now, normally, you come to me and want to borrow money, I'm a bank, and I say, I'm sorry, Mr. Bannon, I can't lend you money because your credit score is not up to where it needs to be. Hopefully, if you work harder and clean up some of your problems, it will be. But no, what I say to you is, I'm going to figure out a way to lend you, not give you. I'm going to lend you money anyway, though you don't have a good credit score. And don't worry, I'm going to get rid of the term that you don't have bad credit. Bad credit sounds pejorative. You don't want to be a person.
Sounds judgmental.
Yes, sounds judgmental. So what we're going to do is we're going to call your credit situation subprime. Oh, nobody knows what that means. Subprime. That means prime is good credit. Subprime is not good credit, less than good credit. So we'll call it something that people really won't follow, and we'll tell you what. We're going to have people lend you money, though you are a subprime borrower, and I will figure out some government agencies to guarantee your loan, though I don't think you're a good risk. So the banks say, no, 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 we don't want, initially, the bank said, sorry, this is too risky, Mr. President, for us. We're in the business of managing risk. It's not our money. It's the hard-working people's money sitting in our bank. We can't lend to people whose credit is not prime. You're asking us to lend to people who are subprime. And he says, here's the key, if you don't, Mr. Bannon, I'm going to make sure the Justice Department charges you with discriminatory lending because you refuse to lend to my subprimers. In business terms, you should never lend to. But what we'll do is I'm going to form an agency called Fannie Mae and Ginnie Mae, just another agency names. They'll guarantee your loan. So don't worry. Don't worry. You don't have to pay it back anymore. Even though and maybe you don't even have to work as hard anymore. That's probably a harsh statement, but these players, these two big firms, Fannie Mae, will guarantee the fact that that bank will receive its money. Now, the bank says, wow, best deal in history. I refused to lend to Mr. Bannon, but now he has the big brother, his Uncle Sam. He went to his Uncle Sam, and Uncle Sam says, I'm guaranteeing it. The bank says, I want everybody. Give me as many people as you can give me, because Uncle Sam is the best credit in the world. Not only that, it's the United States government. We'll take it all. We'll take as much subprime as we can handle, because it's the best investment for the moment. It's a strange investment because it has politics that has inserted its way into the numbers. Politics doesn't belong in the markets. But now we're going to have, I want the votes, we'll make guarantees that you who can't get a house normally will be able to get a house from the bank. The bank says, this is the best deal in history.
Okay.
Hi, everybody. This is day 2021, day since our son, Richard Halliday, the Fort Bliss whistleblower soldier, national hero, was forcibly removed from his barracks room and taken to the basement room in the same building, the arms room, and his life was taken from him. Not only that, his body was stolen. And thank you so much for all the love. Um, his body was stolen and he was trafficked to Mexico for disposal. And evidence, stronger and stronger every day, indicates that his organs were harvested. This is why um, partial remains. So, why would they do something like this on Fort Bliss? Because the organization, the orchestration, the number of people involved, the CID, the Director of Emergency Services, who controls the gates and the cameras and all of that, Richard's chain of command, JAG, the law enforcement judicial system in El Paso, uh, and on, the FBI, on and on. Why would, and the cartel, don't forget that the cartel, El Mayo, lawyer was sent to Richard for counterintelligence to handle Richard before they did the dirty deed. So, this is international. This was um, code red on steroids, okay? Not just including the military, but more agencies. And that's why our first meeting, because of the evidence that was pouring out, um, that scared the hell out of them. They formed a a dog and pony show to cover their tracks, and that was called the Find Richard Halliday Task Force, with over 15 agencies internationally represented. And the military showed up with no uniform on, okay, in their civilian clothes, without any kind of operational order. It was a dog and pony show. And, you know, um, when you ask, well, why, why didn't you scream then or whatever? Y- you know, um, we didn't know who was who and what was going on and what had happened to our son. We were being so lied to on every front. And there were so many um, undercover agents, informants, operators surrounding us and saying, "Oh, they care about veterans and everything like that." But so there were really, and I would even call them spies, but and also those to give us tips and leads and stuff like that to mislead us. So we didn't really know who was who belonged to who. We knew that something very big was going on, something very big, because they were shaking. They were shaking, they were nervous. Um, you could just feel the tension in the air. You could see the jag, leading, pulling every word out of or putting every word into the mouth of the generals. Um, so, it was very obvious something very big was happening, but you really didn't know what, you know? And instead of panic. We just decided to do what they told us to do, and that is investigate what happened to our son. They told us that we had to bring them leads, otherwise, they couldn't help us. So we decided that we would become investigators. And we absolutely knew um, that Allie Payne, Allie Scott, she goes by Allie Scott now, Allie Scott Payne, whatever. They always change their names when they do something really rotten. Um, she was the PAO, and we knew from talking to her on the phone um, that there was some kind of conspiracy behind what they were doing with Richard and forming a narrative, a false narrative, a fabricated narrative, and we were right. We were absolutely right. Um, so we also then decided to create Find Richard Halliday Facebook page to get out what we knew what was going on. Um, and we've been doing that ever since. And also for and the hotline number to create that 941-677-0060 for people to leave tips and messages to us. And of course, we also knew that there were so many victims out there from this broken system that now, we were given a window into, that we knew that there was a broken trust, so that we would not be trusted either, because of all the false narratives and everything. So we knew that we would have to really do our homework, really check our sources, really check our information, and earn the people's respect. Um, Let them know that we're on their side and that we're trying to do what's right for our family and our son and for our country. And so here we are. Here we are over 5.5 years later. And today was really a wowzer, wasn't it? A huge wowzer. And I want to really talk about Jeffrey Epstein again, because not so much him, right? But because El Paso and Zorro Ranch, Albuquerque, Santa Fe, White Sands Missile Range, Juarez, Mexico, that whole area, including Fort Huachuca. So from Fort Huachuca up to Santa Fe, down through White Sands into El Paso, Santa Teresa Jetport, International Jetport, and Juarez is really the epicenter for uh, this whole criminal trafficking Ponzi scheme. And I really want to use that word. I really want to incorporate it because it is so fitting to what has been happening and what the evidence has shown us and confirmed to us that is going on. Um, and of course, Ponzi scheme is what comes out of mind control, right? Mind control, false narratives, manipulation, deception, all of that. And we know for sure that that is exactly what's been going on, this deception, this manipulation, the tampering of all kinds of official documents, especially death certificates, right? Delia Briones in the El Paso County Clerk's office, she must have tampered with, I don't know, hundreds of death certificates. for this whole scheme, for that part of the scheme with the funeral home scheme that is part of all of this, right? They're all connected. And of course, we know that autopsies were tampered with, and CID records, FBI records, and even the records that are coming out about Jeffrey Epstein. And so we're trying to be really careful. And here he is in his own words. And he's confirming the Ponzi scheme, isn't he? He's confirming a big Ponzi scheme, a manipulation of narratives, a manipulation and deception of terms, right? And then a manipulation in the politics. It's really fascinating. If you haven't watched this interview, I would really recommend for everyone to watch this interview. There's quite a bit of foul language in there. We've been inundated in our society with foul language. It's like they want to normalize the F word so that we all use it. Um, and I think that is also like some kind of psychological operation against us, and the degrading of our culture, and dumbing us down, right? They don't want us to have proper adjectives and a proper education to express ourselves correctly. They want to, that word to be just the adjective that everyone uses, right? So, that's just that's a side note, but um, so it's very interesting to have this um, interview to look at this time that proves, corroborating what our evidence over 5.5 years is confirming. And this is just uh, it's just a timing. God's timing is on all of this. So perfect. So let's talk about the first thing that happened today. And matter of fact, I think I'm going to bring this up because, it's been a very long day for our family. Very early start because of um, getting phone calls about the airspace being shut down over El Paso, over not just El Paso, but this area, right? This area, especially the Santa Teresa International Jetport. Um, that is really, I mean, that was just amazing that happened. I believe it was almost for 8 hours that airspace was shut down. Okay. The major points that we want to share is that, and I'm doing all this from memory, okay? Um, that there was no warning to the officials or the media in this area that this would be shut down. What does that say? It says that the Trump administration does not trust the government officials in that area. Okay. And we can confirm to you that that is the case. The other thing is the what you saw, especially with Representative Veronica Escobar, which we can tell you with certainty that she is an enemy of this country, of the people. She's a total enemy of her constituents, and even if they are in on it, you don't want your constituents to be you're a very hateful person if you are allowing your constituents to be put into this criminal trafficking network. Okay. So she is just an enemy to them, really. She's an enemy to this country. And I can't stress that enough. And we can absolutely with certainty tell you that. And she panicked. So, because of what we know about her, because what we've experienced, with meeting her 2 times, what we've experienced with her, and seeing her panic like she did today was told us a lot. It told a story. It said that there's a lot going on behind the scenes, and I mean investigations. And we can confirm to you today that we know that the FAA has ongoing investigations along with other agencies. So, and I will absolutely get to all the comments. First, I'm just going to do things since I do things by memory. I don't have anyone in my ear. I don't have any notes. I'm just coming on every day by memory. I want to make sure I say what I need to say, what's on my mind, and without going back and forth. But so her Representative Veronica Escobar, who has attacked President Trump continuously, okay, gave a false narrative about the Walmart mass shooting, um, did not, concealed the Michael Mayella connection with Patrick Crucius and the connection with John Brian Crucius in Allen, Texas, right? The disciple of John of God, right? Who was being highly promoted by Oprah. Oprah um, being right there with Veronica Escobar and her support for Beto O'Rourke. Beto O'Rourke um, employing La Diabla's family while living next to Plenitude Crematorium, the funeral fraud, 400 plus piled, rotting, rat infested bodies, um, right next door to the owners that are absolutely connected to Cano Steel Inc. Um, Also, on top of that, I mean, these are not some little punky people that run a crematorium. These are people that live in El Paso. Rosa Maria Purchase, Arliano uh, Caron. They live, her son Raphael, um, they live in El Paso. They have businesses in El Paso. They have multiple homes in El Paso. They were given this visa because of the alliance between the Mormon faction El Paso cartel with the Mexican cartel. Okay. This is all connected to La Diabla, connected to Beto O'Rourke, connected to Veronica Escobar. Um, and of course, it involves the baby trafficking, it involves the organ trafficking, it involves the Jeffrey Epstein, John of God pipeline. And there's more that's going to come out. There's a lot more um, that we're, making sure, talking to sources and making, doing different checks and everything before we reveal all that. Um, but absolutely to see her panic when we know that she held the purse strings for not only the Biden administration, Biden campaign for his election, but then he got booted, right? Booted. I think he got booted illegally, and his money went over to Kamala, right? But she went along with. She went from Biden to Kamala, holding on those purse strings as co-chair for the Kamala Harris presidential election. Which is really sketchy. It's all so sketchy. So, to see Veronica Escobar, whose husband is a immigration judge, right? He's an immigration judge. Um, is just it just reveals so much that they are absolutely feeling the pressure, feeling the pressure. And the last thing they want is um, the to be banned, the air travel to be banned. Okay. Now, the ban was lifted pretty quickly after about 8 hours, I think not even quite 8 hours. And the narrative was because there were Mexican drones flying over the airspace that were breaching American airspace and national security, and that they took that drone down, and therefore they resolved the threat. They neutralized the threat, and then therefore they could open up the airspace. The problem with that narrative, and I understand why they're using it, but we want to be as honest as we can with all of you. And the problem with that narrative is that the order early in the morning did not say until further notice. We're shutting down the airspace until further notice, until we resolve the threat that or whatever problem um, that we're facing. Okay. They did not say it like that. They said for 10 days, we are going to shut down the airspace for 10 days. Okay. That created quite a panic. That's loads of money lost, y'all. That is loads of problems, okay? And loads of trafficking problems, because the truth of the matter is that these Mexican drones regularly breach American security, regularly fly into the American airspace. It's not something new. And that's been absolutely confirmed, that this is not like, oh, all of a sudden one cartel drone is flying over American airspace. Oh, we have to neutralize it. No, that is no, they've been doing this for years with the planes and the drones. And for example, look at the El Mayo abduction. Really, it was an abduction arrest, and that's a really, we have posts about that. Look up El Mayo and the flight and who owned that plane and why did they do this. That he was captured and brought into the United States without extradition paperwork. I mean, it was just, that's really sketchy too. So, and I'm not defending El Mayo at all. Okay. I'm not defending El Mayo at all. I'm telling you that there is, um, you know, individuals that work outside of American laws, even Mexican laws, outside of international treaties between the United States and Mexico. They don't think they have to abide by any law. Okay. And they operate that way, that they don't have, they can do whatever they want. And that is a really good case. And so, of course, there has been regular breaches in our security by Mexican drones, okay, and cartel drones, okay. So that's why the narrative is doesn't really hold water, okay? It's pretty weak. It's a very weak. And of course, the other side's narrative would be, oh, was immense pressure from companies and all of that to lift it up. That's a little bit of a better narrative, but I don't think that that holds water either because President Trump is all about the economy. Um, and because of the jobs number, because of crime being reduced, because of all the evidence, saving the petrodollar, he's trying to make our economy very strong. Everything that he's doing shows that he's trying to rebuild our economy to be a legitimate economy. He's gotten way over 100 countries to drop their tariffs for our products so that we can actually make products in this country and sell it, export it, and not be such an import country, but be an export country, have even equal trade. And that's really important to know when you're looking at the narratives. Because why would President Trump want to hurt trade, right? Well, why would he want to hurt the economy by shutting down an airspace, right? So we can confirm that the FAA has ongoing investigations into this corridor, this El Paso, New Mexico um, corridor that the airspace was shut off. And the only way that we can explain it that is backed up by the evidence that we have is that this is a negotiation tactic because we know that there is like a real battle going on within the government. Okay. And um, we know that because of our son's case being a code red, right, that the government was involved in what happened to our son, be it the military, be it the law enforcement, judicial system, the intelligence network, like the FBI, CIA, all of that going on, that really echoes Iran-Contra. Okay, it really echoes Iran-Contra because Iran-Contra was using the reservists in El Paso to bring in cocaine from across the border into the United States while reciprocally providing guns to the Contra, right? And if you're really, you know, uh, well read on the Iran Contra, please leave your comments because this is what this is really a CIA Kashkagi, right? Kashkagi was a CIA middleman for all of this, and Jeffrey Epstein was Kashkagi's financial fixer. He's a financial guy. And so let's move this up. The ban was lifted already. So we really believe that this shutting down the airspace because it sent a message. We know, just like the ships, just like the boats that they blew up, it's not that easy when you have cartel flights and trafficking through the airspace um, in the United States that are carrying um, illegal things. And you can't just take a jet or your fighter jet or bomber or whatever and do what we've been witnessing has been happening to the ships and the boats, right? So it's been reported that one of those drones have been shot down, and I don't doubt that. I don't doubt that. I just think that the narrative is a lot bigger than what they're telling us, and that this is a message and a negotiation, um, because everything is a negotiation, okay? Uh, People need to understand that, um, unless you're full out war, you're negotiating. You got two options with your enemy. Either you negotiate with them, which is called a treaty, when you come to a settled negotiation, um, or or you're full out war. And so, what is Trump good at? President Trump is good at negotiation, and he made the promises that he didn't want to bring the United States into war. Um, and so he is using different tactics. And I think that this gave a message to um, this El Paso cartel in alliance with the Juarez cartel. Okay, they made deals to give the likes of Rosa Maria, um, purchase Arleano Caron and her family visas, to give Carlos Manuel Salas, who is the prosecutor for the North Zone, and Juarez, visas and loans, and so they can buy houses and cars, and that they could get licenses and they could get permits and they could carry out a life in the United States, even though they're the prosecutor for Chihuahua, for the North Zone of Chihuahua. Um, and like Cesar Duarte, I think he has like 400, 14 homes in El Paso. Um, so these, of course he was just arrested, but so, you know, this is an alliance, business alliance, everything, but also a trafficking alliance that was made. And that includes, of course, the money launderers, um, and the military side of it, the tunnel people, the judicial people, we're going to look the other way. That's why you've seen so many of these cases look the other way, because they have an alliance, because they get certain people to come over and then they're elected. And you just heard Jeffrey Epstein talk about how the housing market, the financial market, was politicized and weaponized. Okay, that the politics entered into the financial market and manipulated, even threatened, but then also gave a financial instrument, being Fannie Mae or Jenny Mae or whatever those things are, and in order to use taxpayer money to guarantee subprime loans, meaning people with bad credit. But you're not allowed, there's a redefinition for deception. If you say subprime loans, it doesn't sound so accusative, or and he also said that they would be, if they didn't do it, they would be charged with discrimination, right? So now you're discriminated against if you call someone, you have bad credit, uh, y- you're not paying off your debt. I'm not giving you any money. I don't want you to uh, buy a house because you probably will default, and then I have to deal with that. But the politics got involved in it and said, no, we're going to create a financial instrument, being like Fannie Mae, and guarantee it. And all of the banks are happy. Oh, I got to have as many subprime loans as I can because they're guaranteed now. I love a guaranteed loan, even if it's to someone with bad credit. You see? And then it is a big Ponzi scheme against the American population because at the end of the day, we paid, and really it became international. And we were in Ireland at the time in 2008 when it fell apart. And the people in Ireland, and I can speak from that because I was there, were left with the bill and the banks were bailed out. The banks were bailed out because they had been guaranteed, right? But the people and those that had bought houses, and now the house that they bought for 400,000 euros was only worth 200,000 euros. They were left to hold the debt and the fallout of this Ponzi scheme. And so, why am I talking about this? Because this is the next thing that came up. Um, there's a real problem here, right? There's a real problem when you have this kind of document coming out where this award-winning scientist and researcher is talking about Jeffrey Epstein and his big Ponzi scheme, okay? Calling him a liar, calling him that he doesn't have a guilt gene in his body, right? Because he will lie about everything. So even the YouTube interview with Steve Bannon, you have to take that into consideration that Jeffrey Epstein has a history of lying constantly about everything. So everything that he's saying to you has a purpose, even if it might, um, sound like, oh, geez, he's a pretty smart financial guy. And this is before we knew everything bad about him, okay? That he could convince you with his lies um, to join his scheme. And he got a lot of people to join his scheme. And that scheme, of course, is like Iran-Contra 2.0. But this scheme was for research to do transhumanism. Okay. And this is not me. This is this document. I'm trying to explain this document to everybody, and why we have this pipeline, right? What this pipeline was for babies and fuel and this Jeffrey Epstein little St. James Island where we knew horrible things happened that went all the way up to all this horrible stuff going up all along this way, extorting people everywhere you turned and leaving just destruction in its path. And and then having this hub Zorro Ranch, right? Zorro Ranch, where we know horrible things happened. And why? Why Zorro Ranch? Which is very close to Albuquerque, New Mexico, and just south of Santa Fe. And you have to remember, his ranch was not just a little acre of land, right? Or a half an acre of land with a house on it, right? He he had like 10,000 acres. 10,000 acres. Okay? So those borders reached near to the north call up of White Sands Missile Range. And they also reached very close to Santa Fe, right? Very close. Um, and so you have to kind of look around what's going on. And he bought a lab in Santa Fe. I think he bought the lab. And there was another lab, and I know all these names, but I'm doing everything by heart, and it escapes me. That had scientists that were losing their jobs, and he got that together. His Ponzi scheme was really the epicenter of his Ponzi scheme is the lab, okay, is Santa Fe lab. Because he's saying in this lab, I am going to finance these researchers, these scientists, to discover eternal life. And I kid you not. Okay? I kid you not. And in order to do that, his Ponzi scheme was, um, if you know anything about Ponzi schemes, you don't want any of the people that you're conning out of loads of money to come back when they have the ability. When you're a billionaire, you have a team of lawyers. You also have the ability to influence judicial systems and um, law enforcement and politics. You have the ability to move all that. So if his target is people that have means, which his target was, right? Because he joined Rockefeller, Trilateral Commission. He was in with that billionaire group, which included Oprah, um, Rockefeller, all these people, mostly business people. That's where, oh, he was in connection with Donald Trump, right? President Trump, or he was in connection with Lutnick, or he was in connection with Obama, or he was in connection with, so he's in connection with people that have means. Um, what Bill Gates, right? Bill Gates. Um, what about Elon Musk? What about, you can go on and on and on about who he is in connection with. And he says in the interview, he lives on the phone. He is in constant communication on the phone. And he is a great president. President Trump is a great president. So when you understand the scheme of man-made eternal life, really, that was the scheme. And he got these people to believe that he could actually do this, because of stem cells. But he had to compromise them, y'all, in order to take their money in a Ponzi scheme where he knew he wouldn't be able to deliver. Okay. And my faith tells me, heck, no way he was able to deliver that. Right. It's only God to give. Right. It's only God's to give. Eternal life is only God's to give. He gives us the breath we breathe, and he can take it away. And so it's only him, only him. And so what he's doing is selling them a scam. He's selling them a lie, getting them to invest their probably dirty money, right? Some of them legitimate money. Um, and, you know, millionaires and billionaires, you want to invest?
You want to, have the regeneration power. I'm going to, he was a snake oil salesman. That's what he, that's what he is, a snake oil salesman. But in order to do that with impunity, without fearing these um, people with means to come back and retaliate against him, he had to compromise them. And that's where this pipeline comes in. Oh, in order to get these stem cells, in order to get the elixir, this is what has to be done. And it was purely satanic. It became purely satanic. And you've read it. I've read it. It is the most horrible crimes against children, the most horrible crimes against women, the most horrible crimes against men, the most horrible crimes against humanity. And to do that crime, it required a criminal trafficking pipeline. And that pipeline required the most terrible, I don't even know if Oprah, well, I'm sure she feels conned now, right? Um, but she really promoted John of God, and it was like the worst type of crimes. And then you have um, all of the security people and the tunnel people and the pilots and the all of them, the drugs involved. If you can't compromise them with the most evil things against children and women and all that, well, then I'll compromise them with drugs. I'll compromise them with gun running. I'll compromise them with auto parts, right? Anything that wasn't bolted down on Fort Bliss was, eyed to be trafficked. Okay. The theft, the larceny in the heart, was absolutely fed. Absolutely, the carrots were dangled in front of them, and they were getting protection. Well, the people participating were in the judicial system, were in the law enforcement system, were, um, in the CPS and in the DES and Fort Bliss and, the medical examiner and the funeral business, right? The funeral business. And, and it created just the worst, the worst. I mean, it's so terrible culture. It's such a terrible, illegal economy. An illegal, violent, vile, vulgar, demonic economy. And that's why it is such a huge, huge battle. And Richard, our Richard, coming from a beautiful life, y'all. Abs and I mean, I know I'm his mother, but I just have to tell you, a beautiful life. In first in Heidelberg, Germany. I mean, he traveled a lot. And then Ireland, just absolutely, and everyone that knows us and were around knew what a beautiful life, right? And smart. He's smart. And he wanted to be CID. And and you know, he got to El Paso and he had the character and the foundation to withstand the entrapment, because even the soldiers, on Fort Bliss in the barracks, um, our military was doing to them what Jeffrey Epstein was doing, compromising who he was targeting, that he wanted to steal, and he would give them all the pretty speech about this eternal life, and he was going to digitize it. I mean, he says it in the interview that he would mathematically turn it into a mathematical formula and turn it into a financial instrument, just like Fannie Mae for the whole subprime debacle. He was going to do that same playbook with Eternal Life Elixir Lie. It was a scam. So, of course, and Bill Clinton and him were just getting along really good. They were getting along really good because wasn't it? And he said it that it was Bill Clinton that said, "I'm going to create a Fannie Mae, a Ginnie, or whatever, and you will loan to people with bad credit. Otherwise, I'm going after you for discrimination." Right? And all the banks are like, "Well, you guarantee it, so great. Okay, bring them on." Well, that same playbook is what Jeffrey Epstein is saying that he was doing in this interview, that he would change that into a financial instrument to guarantee it, right? Like, I mean, and the only thing that you can say is what a Ponzi scam that is. And a Ponzi scam that was just turned so demonic because he knew that he could lie. He didn't have the guilt gene, right? This is what this document that I posted says. He didn't have the guilt. He could lie all the time. Okay. And it was a scam. It really was a scam. And this next one, this next post, kind of brings in Bill Gates into it a bit. Here's Bill Gates here. You can see it bigger if you go on to Find Richard Halliday Facebook, because it talks about how he was giving them STDs, or this was allegations of STDs, because this post is very interesting to us because this is a tip that was given to the FBI in Albuquerque. Okay. And the allegations in this tip happened, I believe, April 16th, 2020. Okay. Just a week after the death, finding Glennon Oakley Jr. in his barracks room, not alive. Just a week later. Okay. Now, Richard would be absolutely horrified. He would be silently mad as hell about the death of Glennon Oakley Jr. because clearly he was targeted. Clearly he was harassed. Clearly something really suspicious brought about his death. This beautiful young man, a hero and witness on August 3rd, 2019, the Walmart mass shooting. He was the witness for the group dressed in black with carrying M4s in the mall and shots heard in the mall. He was that guy. That was who Glennon Oakley Jr. was. And with all these false narratives that Veronica Escobar wanted to solidify in your brain, in my brain, in everybody's brain, a false narrative, a lie, mind control, right? Deception.
Glendon Oakley Jr. was a threat to that. And Richard, being the investigator that he was and paying attention and not compromised, not falling for their um, blackmail or their schemes to, for drugs and the alcohol and um, illegal weapons, all of that. We've had to debunk what they've tried to pin on him. Nothing has stuck because it's not true, right? And they just have to discredit. That's their thing, is to ruin people, right? Ruin everybody so that they can do their criminal schemes with impunity, and no one will be able to be a reliable witness. No one will be able to take their means, right, and apply them to justice. That's what the evidence shows. And they were bringing in the girls. They were bringing in young girls, underage girls, and 4 months living in the barracks. And they were bringing in the drugs, and they were absolutely compromising our soldiers. Richard withstood that. And did he provide this tip to the Albuquerque FBI office? Did he? 8 days after Glendon Oakley Jr. lost his life. The timing is perfect. The motive is there. The righteous indignation is there. Absolutely. Enough to spark, I need to do something. So that's a real possibility. And that's what this post is all about, because the allegations against Zorro Ranch and Jeffrey Epstein are absolutely stunning. And it is about compromising people and even scamming people. Like, I don't even know if Bill Gates ever had the STD, right? But maybe he was afraid that he did, right? The scamming of people and everything, and to compromise them, put them in these situations that they fall for. And I'm not making excuses for anybody, right? I'm just saying this is the playbook. This is the playbook. And if we know it, then we can withstand it better. That's what I'm saying. Beware, watch out. You could be targeted. You could be targeted to cover up for scammers, scammers and Ponzi schemers, and we see this in Minnesota. We see this really everywhere we go, um, and and we need to absolutely not put up with this kind of scamming that is so damaging to our culture, so damaging to our families, so damaging. And I see Donna there, and I know you had a birthday, Donna. Happy birthday, Donna. I hope you're hearing me. Um, but yeah, it, it's just so ruinous to our country, and not only to our country, but our relationship with other countries, to other countries. Because you know, if America has a cough, then the saying was, if America has a cough, then Ireland has pneumonia. Um, so this is, it's all connected, and that's why we need to really face this
and be aware of it and withstand it and restrain ourselves, because we all have weaknesses, right? And restrain ourselves, because it really is not just about each individual person. It really does domino effect through our family and society and our country and the world. So this is really the other big thing about this is this Albuquerque tip went to New York. It went to New York. So, and I don't think anything was done about it. But if you have time to read it, thank you so much. And please share it. Please share it and like it, comment with your wisdom and your experiences. We really appreciate that, all of your tips that you give us. Um, the next thing, I think the next thing, that's it for, that's it. That's all, y'all. That's all. I mean, that was so big, right? Um, it's just so much information each and every day. And we are working very hard behind the scenes doing other things because we are analyzing, checking, identifying the crimes, documenting the crimes, and filing the crimes. And we can absolutely tell you that there are FAA ongoing investigations. So let me now go through some of these comments. Sorry that it took so long, but uh, it's some of this stuff gets so crazy that I have to stay really focused. Okay, Laura, thank you so much. Thank you for always coming on, your faithfulness and your love and all your prayers. Janet, let's see. It saddens me to see you wearing a MAGA hat. I can understand that you got a lot of hope from the words from Trump, but I don't understand mm, how you can still. Okay, so I'm going to answer that. Okay. Um, the letters from President Trump that we received in August of 2025 were a bonus. Okay. We were wearing the hat before then, in support of the weaponized agencies against him. Okay. Absolutely. And I can tell you our evidence, not me personally, not, in awe of him or anything like that. I can tell you that the evidence that we have, especially how much we know about the Walmart mass shooting, what we know about Veronica Escobar, what we know about Beto O'Rourke, because Beto O'Rourke was running against President Trump. Okay. In 2019, he was a presidential candidate. Okay. What we know about Oprah, what we know about that Veronica Escobar was holding on to the purse strings for Biden and for Kamala Harris. What we know about the Mormon faction El Paso cartel in alliance with the Mexican cartel and what they were reporting, what we know about Ernest Christopher Grant, what we know about Brian Crucius and Patrick Crucius and the Mayellas and the judicial system, Walmart and the law enforcement system. What we know about the El Paso Criminal Law Magistrate Court, what we know, and I can go on and on and on, is that they were weaponized against President Trump. They absolutely would do anything to stop him. What we know about our military, what we know about Sean Bernabe, retired right now, fired, and Mealy and McConville and Garrett and what they were up to about certain planes, about certain pilots. What we know is that they had one common denominator that was above all other common denominators, and that was they wanted to get Trump out. Out. That President Trump, if you had to lie, scheme, weaponize, whatever, we had to get him out. And this is why we support President Trump, because of all of these people that we know are engaged in very evil things. Very, very evil things. Hate Trump, then we support Trump. And when he came in 2025, and he has been finishing up what he started. Remember, it was his administration that arrested Jeffrey Epstein, that really hit that pipeline hard. Did he end it? No. They rallied without Jeffrey Epstein. Okay. He had John of God arrested. He had El Chapo arrested. He had Maxwell, Ghislaine Maxwell arrested. Cesar Duarte was arrested then. Now he's arrested again. El Mayo is now arrested. Dozens and dozens, if not hundreds, of cartel leaders, kingpins, have been arrested and extradited. The stealing, the siphoning of fuel has been stopped, from what we know from our intelligence, because of Cesar Piniche's house being raided, because of Maduro being arrested. I mean, he was illegitimate and he was arrested. Because of all of that, and plus, this hat stands for Make America Great Again. That is wishing a blessing and a goodness on America. We stand with that. We stand with that because then all people will benefit. So, thank you so much, Donna. He is a very good president. And, time will even tell more. And I also know through history, some of the best leaders have so much opposition. George Washington had so much opposition. I mean, there were so many spies surrounding him that wanted to do him harm. And I could go on and on and on. So I know that there is opposition, even like the two that's Emperor Justinian and his wife Theodora, which I was painting when all this happened with Richard. And if you know their stories, it's opposition, and they overcame that and created the longest lasting empire because they ensured an amazing foundation, that created the longest lasting, prosperous, civilization, empire that brought us so many wonderful things. Anyway, that's a long story, but yeah, I was painting them. Okay, I feel the same way for the Clintons. Bill knew exactly about the real deal with the NAFTA trade and the human trafficking. Just watch Border Town with J-Lo 2007. Yeah. Yeah, and now the Clintons will testify and we'll get some more answers, won't we? Because we know about the Clinton Foundation, we know about the Haiti children, and the Haiti children are part of this network. So more information is going to come out. Yes, Laura, Clinton too, Biden too. It's all of them, both sides. And Biden had the Jeffrey Epstein files. We know these files have been messed with, but Biden didn't respond. He didn't respond. He didn't even try. Matter of fact, he fertilized the evil. And yeah, so and there is really this huge effort, especially because of what's going on with Erica Kirk and Charlie Kirk and TPUSA and all of the deception that's surrounding that. Um, and so I understand. Um, but we're standing firm in our son's case, and we want the best and a blessing for the United States. We want America to be great. And so we absolutely are siding with that. And we know all the Mormon faction stuff and their connections with Israel, this, but we're talking about world geopolitics. It's not just as easy as that. It's just not. We're talking about billions of lives and different cultures and I just can't, and all the business, right? And the chopping away of legitimate business and putting in a lot of monopolies, substandard, you can say subprime businesses out there that give us very defective products. We're talking about steel, we're talking about our everyday needs. And you see, we have to do a lot of rebuilding. It's not as simple as just putting a flat label on somebody. And if you're a teacher, you absolutely know that because you have all your students in your class, and not one of them is the same person, right? Not one of them is alike. Not two of them are alike, and they all require a different type of curriculum, a different type of learning method, different type of testing, different, and they want to standardize everything. They want to like Borg our children, Borg our businesses, Borg our countries, and we're not Borgs. We're different. We're all different, and you know, I just think it's not as simple as people um, want to make out, and we need to, we know we wanted we wanted a king other than God, right? If we just chose God to be our king, the world's problems would be solved. But that's not where we're at right now. That's my striving. That's, but that's not where the world is at right now. And so, there is a negotiations and a lot of maneuvering, um, a lot of politics and diplomacy. And so, yeah, say a prayer. And right now, our president is President Trump. And we should absolutely, as he's been cheerleading for our economy, as he's been cheerleading for our military, when he knows that our military have been mutinous against him, when he has been cheerleading for our country, when our country has not been so good to him, right? I mean, it's been very good as far as the people and the election, even in a tampered election. Um, but he is our president, and I think that deserves a lot of respect and temperament, temperament, control of our temperament, and also the realization that we have to do our part, right? We have to do our part in this country, and yeah. So I know it's been a busy day. And thank you so much. And we will get justice. We will get accountability because if we want it, because we are a country of the people, by the people, for the people. And so, really, um, when we want to make a complaint, I think we need to do it in the mirror. We need to absolutely participate
and not anticipate, or anticipate, no, participate and not anticipate. Yeah, that's a good one. Um, Participate and really pray that that God's hand is on all of this all the time as it is, and be thankful. Thank you, everyone. God bless you, and I will be back tomorrow, God willing. Bye bye.